will America hit next? Where will it strike to avenge the death of its soldiers? 3 American soldiers have died in a drone strike in Jordan. Here is where the drone struck. Tower 22. It is a military outpost in northeastern Jordan. It is near the Al-Tanf garrison. A number of American troops are stationed there to help fight the Islamic State, or whatever remains of it. Like you can see, the location of this camp is very close to the Syrian and the Iraqi borders. The drone struck this outpost early in the morning. 3 American soldiers died, 34 others were injured. At least 8 of them had to be moved out of Jordan for medical treatment. What happens next is anybody's guess. This is not the first attack on American interests in West Asia. Militant groups in the region have hit or tried to hit American interests at least 150 times since Hamas's October 7 attacks. At least 150 times. Several American troops have been injured in these 150 attacks. A lot of American troops suffered traumatic brain injuries, in fact. But never before had American troops died in this latest West Asia conflict as a result of an enemy strike. This drone strike has changed the rules, basically, of engagement. The Islamic resistance in Iraq is claiming responsibility. And what do we know about the Islamic resistance in Iraq? This is an umbrella organization of militia groups. It has sparked a fire that stands to engulf the entire region, probably even the wider world. US President Joe Biden was in South Carolina when he was informed about the attack. He got onto a call with the US Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. In a post on the platform X, Biden said, and I'm quoting now, "We will hold those responsible to account at a time and in a manner of our choosing." And later in the day, Biden discussed the attack with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown, and the Director of National Intelligence, Avril D. Haines. Biden reiterated his pledge to avenge the attack during a visit to a church. Let's just play that out for you.
I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases. And I'd ask you for a moment of silence for all 3 of those fallen soldiers.
Just look at what Lloyd Austin is saying. The president and I will not tolerate attacks on American forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests. What will these measures be is the question. In the last few weeks, the U.S. has hit Houthi targets in Yemen. On the 12th of January, in fact, American and British forces hit over a dozen targets in Yemen. And ever since, the U.S. has struck Yemen at least 8 times. The U.S. has also hit Iran-backed militants in Iraq. An American drone strike has killed militia commander Mushtaq Jawad Qazim al-Jawari in Baghdad on January 4. Where will America hit next? Iran? Tehran has denied playing any role in this drone attack, in fact.
Repeating baseless accusations against Iran is the projection and conspiracy of those who see their interests in dragging America's feet into a new battle in the region and inciting it in the expansion and escalation of the crisis to cover up their problems. Resistance groups in the region do not take orders from the Islamic Republic of Iran in their decisions and actions.
Resistance forces is a code that Iran often uses for the militias it supports across West Asia. They are the soldiers of Iran's proxy war. The Islamic resistance in Iraq is one such group. Did Tehran really not know about this drone attack? Well, that's hard to believe. Here's what appears to be the case. With this drone strike, what Iran is essentially doing is testing where the line is. How far can it go in attacking American interests? How much can Iraq get away with? This is no doubt a major escalation in the West Asia war. What happens next? Where will America strike to avenge the death of its soldiers? What really are Joe Biden's options? Option 1. America can carry out more broad and intense strikes on Iran-backed groups, on their camps in Syria, Iraq. But will that be a revenge enough? Will it actually help to stop the attacks on American interests? Will it help silence the militia groups? Some members of the Congress want more. Republicans are accusing Biden of letting American forces become sitting ducks. Here's what the US Senator Tom Cotton is saying. I'm quoting, "The only answer to these attacks must be devastating military retaliation against Iran's terrorist forces, both in Iran and across the Middle East." And this is Mike Rogers. He leads the US Military Oversight Committee, and he is calling for an attack on Iran. I'm quoting, "It's long past time for President Biden to finally hold the terrorist Iranian regime and their extremist proxies accountable for the attacks that they have carried out." But the question is, can the Pentagon really afford to go to war with Iran? That's option number 2. A strike on Iran could trigger an all-out conflict. And the absence of such a strike is becoming a question mark on Biden's leadership. In fact, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell wants Biden to, quote-unquote, exercise American strength to compel Iran to change its behavior. And then you have Donald Trump. He is claiming that the strike is a, quote-unquote, consequence of Joe Biden's weakness and surrender, adding, I'm quoting, "The attack would never have happened if I was president." Well, it goes without saying there is political pressure on Biden to respond, and it is essentially a catch-22. If America goes to war, it will lose men, money. What about allies? Biden's persistent support of Israel has already cost America. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have not joined America's Red Sea Task Force, remember. Will they want an all-out American war in their backyard? If Biden does not go to war, he risks losing reputation. So what will it be? Remember, the US president is currently also a presidential candidate. Biden is seeking re-election, and chances are, come November, Biden will be facing Trump. It's a tough rematch, to say the least. Will Biden drag the US into another forever war to win this rematch? Will Biden intensify the war to save his political skin? We will keep you posted. And since we are discussing fights, how can we not discuss the latest fight brewing in Asia? The fight between Iran and Pakistan. The two countries have been engaged in an intense face-off for quite some time now. Over the weekend came a new flashpoint in their ongoing brawl. 9 Pakistani workers were gunned down in Iran, and at least 3 others were injured. The incident unfolded in Saravan, a city located in the Sistan-Balochistan province. The workers in question were killed when unidentified attackers opened indiscriminate fire on them on Saturday. According to eyewitnesses, the attack unfolded inside a house in the Sirkan neighborhood of the Sistan-Balochistan province. Back in Pakistan, the families of the victims are mourning their loss. They are asking the Pakistani government to repatriate the bodies and hand them over to the relatives.
Our relatives worked as laborers and have been living in Iran's city of Saravan for the last 8-10 years. My other nephew, who was injured in the firing, told me on the phone that around 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m., 3 terrorists came and asked them to get up and wanted to know who among them were Pakistanis. They opened fire and killed 9 of them.
We ask that the Pakistani government repatriate the bodies and hand them over to the relatives. Those injured should also be brought to their relatives so that their wounds can heal.
जख्म हैं उनका तदारक किया जा सके।
So who was behind the attack? Well, so far, no group or individual has claimed responsibility, but authorities suspect the role of Baloch separatists. And that is because the deadly attack follows tensions in the porous border region of the province. Also, Sistan Balochistan is one of the few mainly Sunni Muslim provinces in the Shiite-dominated Iran. It has seen persistent unrest involving cross-border drug smuggling gangs and rebels from the Balochi ethnic minority. What adds to the speculation is the recent strikes and the number of recent strikes. You see, on the 18th of January, Pakistan launched airstrikes on militant targets in Iran. The strikes unfolded 2 days after Iran launched similar strikes on its territory. The target in both the cases being Baloch militant groups. So it is being perceived that the same groups could be behind the killing of the Pakistani workers. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Affairs Ministry has issued a statement. It says, and I'm quoting, "It is a horrifying and despicable incident, and we condemn it unequivocally. We are in touch with Iranian authorities and have underscored the need to immediately investigate the incident and hold to account those involved in this heinous crime. We are fully seized of this grave matter and are taking all necessary measures in this regard. The embassy will do its best to repatriate dead bodies at the earliest." Such cowardly attacks cannot deter Pakistan from its determination to fight terrorism. Now, isn't that a bit rich coming from Pakistan? Talking about its determination to fight terrorism? I mean, the country itself has promoted terror for decades now. For Islamabad, Baloch separatists are terrorists, but those carrying out attacks along India's borders are seemingly not. It is this hypocrisy which seems to have landed Pakistan in this precarious situation.